There's a story about Carl Jung that most people misunderstand. A woman once came to him completely shattered by betrayal. She kept repeating the same sentence over and over. "I don't understand how they could do this to me." She wasn't crying because someone lied to her. She was crying because the person she imagined never actually existed. And Jung noticed something disturbing. The pain wasn't coming from reality itself, it was coming from the collapse of fantasy. Because deep down, the human mind does something dangerous with people it admires, loves, fears, or desires. It fills in the missing parts. You meet someone confident, and your mind assumes they are loyal. You meet someone attractive, and your mind assumes they are kind. You meet someone who understands you emotionally once, and suddenly you start building an entire personality around them that was never truly there. Most people are not in relationships with others. They are in relationships with projections. And eventually, reality arrives like a knife, not loudly, quietly, in delayed replies, in disrespect disguised as jokes, in sudden distance after you stop being useful, in the strange feeling that someone only values you when you are emotionally available to them. You've probably felt this before without fully admitting it. That moment when you slowly realize the version of someone inside your head feels warmer than the real person standing in front of you. That realization changes you, because once you see it, you start noticing how often people perform versions of themselves depending on who they are around. The loyal friend around you becomes a different person in another room. The nice person suddenly turns cruel when they gain social power. The person who said they loved honesty becomes defensive the moment you speak honestly. And the unsettling part is this: most people are not consciously pretending. They genuinely believe they are the mask they perform. Carl Jung believed every human being carries a shadow, the hidden part of themselves they refuse to acknowledge. And the more someone avoids confronting that shadow, the more artificial their personality becomes. That's why some people feel strangely empty after you know them long enough, because eventually the performance starts glitching, the mask slips, and for 1 second you see the insecurity underneath the charm, the envy underneath the support, the control underneath the affection. People don't fear being seen. They fear being seen completely. And maybe that's why the moment you stop romanticizing people feels so unsettling. Because you realize how much of your suffering came from loving illusions your own mind created for them. After that realization, something subtle begins changing inside you. You stop listening only to words. You start studying patterns, and patterns reveal things people spend their entire lives trying to hide. You notice how some people only become affectionate when they feel you pulling away, how respect suddenly appears after distance, how attention increases the moment you stop chasing it. It becomes impossible not to see. Human behavior is deeply reactive. Most people don't value what is present. They value what feels difficult to secure. That's why kindness is often ignored until it disappears. Kindness without boundaries quietly teaches people how to use you. And the frightening part is how early this conditioning begins. In school, you probably saw it without understanding it. The quietest student becoming the target simply because they tolerated disrespect. The confident person receiving admiration despite treating others poorly. The one who constantly sacrificed for everyone slowly becoming invisible, as if human beings unconsciously organize themselves around power long before morality enters the picture. Carl Jung believed that what people reject in themselves gets projected onto others. And once you understand projection, social life becomes psychologically disturbing. The insecure accuse others of seeking attention. The dishonest obsess over loyalty. The controlling call themselves protectors. The people most terrified of abandonment often become the ones who emotionally suffocate others. Everyone reveals themselves eventually, not through confession, through repetition. That's why awareness changes your relationships forever. You stop judging isolated moments and begin observing consistent behavior over time. And consistency exposes reality. The friend who only contacts you during emotional crises. The person who subtly competes with you in every conversation. The relationship where vulnerability somehow always becomes ammunition later. At first, these realizations hurt, because your mind wants to defend people, especially the ones you invested emotions into. So you rationalize everything. They're just stressed. They didn't mean it. That's just how they are. But eventually a darker thought enters your mind. What if you've been translating disrespect into misunderstanding simply because you feared losing people? That question changes everything. Because many relationships survive only through denial, not love. Denial. Denial keeps families functioning. Denial keeps toxic friendships alive for years. Denial keeps people emotionally attached to those who have already stopped valuing them. Most relationships don't end when respect disappears. They end when awareness appears. And awareness creates distance, not always physically, psychologically. You begin feeling detached in conversations that once mattered deeply. Certain compliments start sounding transactional. Certain acts of affection begin feeling strategic rather than sincere. You stop being hypnotized by charm, and once that happens, social dynamics become impossible to ignore. You notice how groups silently punish authenticity, how people become uncomfortable when someone refuses to perform, how honesty threatens entire social structures built on polite deception. Because most social systems are not built on truth. They are built on mutual agreement, an agreement to avoid saying what everyone already sees. And the person who breaks that illusion first usually becomes the problem. That's the strange punishment that comes with seeing reality clearly. You become harder to manipulate, but also harder to belong anywhere. Because once you stop romanticizing people, you start realizing how much of social life depends on performance. Watch how people change depending on status. The insecure become overly agreeable around authority. The confident suddenly become dismissive around weakness. Even morality shifts depending on social reward. Someone will condemn betrayal publicly while secretly betraying people in private. Someone will preach honesty while carefully constructing an image designed to control perception. And most disturbing of all, many people don't even realize they're doing it. Carl Jung understood something brutal about human nature. The ego will protect its self-image at almost any cost. People want to believe they are good. So instead of confronting their darkness, they create explanations for it. Cruelty becomes being honest. Manipulation becomes love. Control becomes protection. Jealousy becomes concern. The human mind is terrifyingly skilled at disguising its true motives, especially from itself. That's why some of the most dangerous people are not the openly malicious ones. They are the ones completely convinced of their own innocence. And if you've lived long enough, you've probably encountered this type of person before. The friend who constantly tears you down for your own good. The partner who makes you feel guilty for needing space. The person who creates emotional chaos, then acts wounded when you react to it. They drain your energy while maintaining the image of being the victim. Because victimhood itself can become power. The moment you understand this, your perception of human interaction changes permanently. You stop focusing only on what people say. You start asking, what emotional outcome does this person want from me? That question reveals almost everything. Some people want admiration. Some want obedience. Some want emotional dependence. Some simply want someone beneath them so they can temporarily escape their own feelings of inadequacy. People rarely seek connection as purely as they claim. Often, they seek regulation, a way to soothe the emptiness they cannot face alone. And this is where the illusion of romance begins collapsing too. Because many relationships are not built on love. They are built on unconscious psychological contracts. I will make you feel valuable if you make me feel wanted. I will save you if you never leave me. I will admire you if you protect me from loneliness. This is why people change so suddenly once the emotional transaction stops benefiting them. Not because they became different overnight, because the mask was attached to a condition, and conditions eventually reveal themselves. You can see this most clearly after success, failure, or transformation. Become successful, and hidden envy appears. Become vulnerable, and hidden disrespect surfaces. Set boundaries, and hidden entitlement reveals itself. Nothing exposes human nature faster than changing the role people assigned to you. The quiet person becomes confident. The agreeable person starts saying no. The insecure person begins healing. Suddenly, the people who claim to love them start becoming uncomfortable. Why? Because some relationships were unconsciously built around your weakness. People don't always love who you are becoming. Sometimes they love who you used to be when you were easier to control. And that realization doesn't make you hate humanity. It simply removes the fantasy. Once the fantasy disappears, loneliness starts feeling different. Not heavier, sharper. You begin realizing that being surrounded by people and being understood are completely different experiences. Some of the loneliest people have active phones, crowded rooms, relationships, conversations every day. But nobody around them truly sees them beyond utility identity, or expectation. And maybe you felt this before without knowing how to describe it. That strange exhaustion after socializing. The feeling that you were present physically but absent psychologically. Like you spent hours performing a version of yourself that kept everyone comfortable while the real you remained hidden underneath. Carl Jung believed that the greatest burden a child must bear is the unlived life of the parents. But the same pattern continues everywhere in adulthood too. Society rewards masks early. Be agreeable, be attractive, be successful, be useful, be emotionally digestible. Slowly, people stop asking themselves who they truly are and begin asking a more dangerous question. What version of me gets accepted fastest? And once a person builds their identity around acceptance, authenticity starts feeling threatening. That's why genuinely self-aware people often make others uncomfortable without trying. Their presence exposes performance. A person who no longer desperately seeks validation becomes difficult to control. A person comfortable with solitude becomes difficult to manipulate. A person who sees through emotional games stops feeding them, and people notice this immediately, even if nobody says it out loud. There's a reason some individuals lose friends after becoming more confident, disciplined, or emotionally independent. Growth changes social balance. The insecure friend suddenly feels inferior. The controlling partner loses influence. The attention seeker no longer receives constant reassurance. And beneath all of this sits a disturbing truth most people avoid confronting. Many relationships are held together less by love and more by unconscious mutual dependency. One person needs admiration, the other needs purpose. One needs emotional rescue, the other needs to feel needed. It functions until one person evolves. Then suddenly the relationship begins cracking in places nobody expected, because awareness destroys unconscious contracts. This is why healing can feel socially dangerous. When you stop tolerating disrespect, manipulative people call you selfish. When you stop over-explaining yourself, insecure people call you distant. When you stop chasing approval, some people lose interest entirely. Not because you became worse, because your role changed. And most human relationships are far more role-based than people want to admit. The funny friend, the strong one, the listener, the helper. The moment you stop performing your assigned role, people react as if you violated an invisible agreement, because in many cases, you did. The terrifying realization is that very few people actually want complete authenticity. Complete authenticity disrupts social comfort. Imagine if everyone openly admitted their jealousy, insecurity, need for validation, hidden resentment, fear of abandonment, desire for control. Most relationships would collapse under the weight of honesty, so society survives through partial truth, carefully managed masks, polite performances, mutual avoidance. And the person who begins seeing this clearly often goes through a strange psychological shift. They stop feeling shocked by human behavior because they finally understand it. And understanding human nature too deeply creates a dangerous temptation. Detachment, not peaceful detachment, cold detachment, the kind where you begin expecting manipulation before kindness, self-interest before loyalty, performance before sincerity. At first it feels intelligent, protective. You tell yourself you've finally woken up, that you see people for what they are now. But this is where many people misunderstand Jung completely, because seeing the darkness in others is only half the journey. The real horror begins when you recognize the same darkness inside yourself. That moment usually arrives quietly. You catch yourself enjoying someone's failure, feeling secretly validated when another person becomes insecure around you, withholding affection to regain control, performing confidence while hiding fear, pretending not to care because caring feels dangerous, and suddenly the image of yourself as different starts collapsing too. That's the shadow Jung warned about, not evil, hidden humanity. The parts of yourself you separated from your identity because they felt unacceptable. Jealousy, neediness, ego, manipulation, cruel fantasies, the desire to dominate, the desire to be worshipped, the desire to be chosen over others. Most people spend their entire lives pretending these impulses don't exist. But repression does not destroy darkness. It buries it alive, and buried things influence behavior from underneath. That's why the people who appear morally superior are sometimes the most psychologically dangerous. Their shadow becomes so denied that it leaks out unconsciously through passive aggression, emotional control, judgment, or hidden resentment. The human mind is strange. The more innocent someone desperately needs to appear, the more carefully you should observe them. Because true self-awareness usually creates humility, not perfection. A person who has confronted their shadow understands what they are capable of under the right conditions. They understand that morality is often far more fragile than society admits. Place enough fear, humiliation, power, loneliness, or desire into a human being, and behaviors change quickly. History has already proven this repeatedly. Civilized people become cruel faster than they imagine. Loyal people betray. Honest people lie. Kind people dehumanize others when social approval rewards it. Most individuals are not stable identities. They are adaptable psychological conditions. And once you realize this, your entire perception of good and evil becomes less simplistic. You stop dividing humanity into heroes and monsters. You begin seeing wounded egos, unconscious fears, hidden desires, survival instincts, unresolved shame. You begin seeing people as psychologically fragmented, including yourself. That realization is uncomfortable because it destroys moral fantasy. The fantasy that you would always do the right thing. The fantasy that love automatically makes people pure. The fantasy that awareness alone makes someone immune to darkness. It doesn't. Awareness simply gives you a choice. Most people are controlled by patterns they never examine, but the person who confronts their shadow begins noticing those patterns in real time. The urge to manipulate, the urge to seek validation, the urge to punish rejection, the urge to maintain control through silence, guilt, or withdrawal. And for the first time, they understand something terrifying. Human beings are far less rational than they pretend to be. Most behavior is emotional survival wearing intellectual clothing. After that realization, the world starts feeling quieter. Not calmer, just quieter. You stop expecting people to become who they promised they would be. You stop being surprised when admiration turns into envy, when loyalty bends under pressure, when affection disappears the moment convenience disappears. And strangely, this begins making you more observant than emotional. You notice how desperately people try to escape themselves. Some do it through relationships, some through status, some through constant noise, attention, substances, achievement, social media, endless conversations, endless stimulation. Anything to avoid sitting alone long enough to hear their own mind clearly, because silence forces confrontation, and confrontation is terrifying, especially when a person has built their entire identity around external validation. Carl Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." Most people never realize how much of their personality is automated. They think they fell in love, but often they repeated childhood attachment patterns. They think they have bad luck with people, but unconsciously they keep choosing familiar emotional dynamics. They think everyone betrays them. Yet they ignore every warning sign because fantasy feels safer than reality. Human beings don't just seek happiness. They seek familiarity, even when familiarity hurts them. That's why some people repeatedly return to toxic relationships, manipulative friendships, emotionally unavailable partners. The pain feels familiar, and familiarity creates psychological comfort. This is also why people resist change so violently. Change threatens identity. If someone has spent years being the victim, healing feels like losing themselves. If someone built their worth around being needed, boundaries feel terrifying. If someone survives through control, vulnerability feels unbearable. Most people are not protecting truth. They are protecting identity structures. And once you understand this, you stop taking certain behaviors personally. The disrespect, the projections, the manipulation, the emotional inconsistency. Much of it was never truly about you. You simply triggered unresolved parts of them they were trying desperately not to face. Sometimes your confidence reminds someone of their insecurity. Sometimes your independence threatens someone's control. Sometimes your growth exposes another person's stagnation. And instead of confronting themselves, they punish you psychologically. Not always openly, sometimes through subtle withdrawal, passive aggression, dismissive humor, withheld support, energy shifts, tiny emotional punishments almost impossible to explain to others. But you feel them, especially once your perception sharpens. Because awareness changes the way human interaction feels inside your body. You start sensing tension underneath politeness, competition underneath praise, resentment underneath friendliness. the social mask becomes transparent. And that transparency can become isolating if you're not careful. Because eventually a dangerous thought appears. If everyone is wearing masks, is genuine connection even real? That question sits in the mind like poison. Some people become cynical after this stage, cold, emotionally unreachable. They convince themselves that trust is weakness and detachment is intelligence. But Jung believed something deeper. The goal was never to become naive nor cynical. It was to become conscious, to see human nature clearly without losing your own humanity in the process. And that balance is far rarer than people think, because once you truly see reality, you can never fully return to illusion again. Because once you truly see reality, you can never fully return to illusion again. You start understanding why some conversations suddenly feel empty, why certain smiles feel rehearsed, why some people only love the parts of you that benefit them. And why deep down, almost everyone is fighting a private psychological war they rarely admit out loud. But maybe the darkest realization is this: the masks were never the problem. The problem was believing they were permanent. Human beings are conflicted creatures capable of love and manipulation, loyalty and betrayal, compassion and cruelty, sometimes within the same hour. And perhaps maturity begins the moment you stop searching for perfect people and start seeing people as they truly are. Fragmented, wounded, performing, afraid, including yourself. Because the day you stop romanticizing people is also the day you stop needing them to complete the fantasy inside your mind. You stop begging reality to become softer than it is. And strangely, that's when your vision becomes clear for the first time. Not optimistic, not pessimistic, just clear. And clarity changes the way you walk through the world. You become slower to trust, but deeper when you do. Harder to manipulate, but more honest with yourself. Less addicted to attention, less hypnotized by charm. Less willing to abandon your intuition just to keep someone close. Because now you understand something most people spend their entire lives avoiding. The greatest danger was never that people could deceive you. It was that your loneliness, desire, hope, and projections could deceive you first. And once you understand that, human nature stops feeling shocking. It simply feels human. If this made you realize something uncomfortable about people or about yourself, leave a comment with the word "aware."